Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiffany Dell, and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, where we take a look back at the weekend's motorsport from around the world, and there's plenty of drama. There was a tiresome Canadian Grand Prix that turned into an explosive drama. A fan favourite whose promising Grand Prix career was ended too soon by a frightening rally crash, wins at Le Mans. There's a dramatic accident at IndyCar. There was indeed. Fairy tale win at NASCAR as it goes to Mexico. Incidents galore with the F1 Academy girls. They get a little bit physical, and Superbikes head to Italy. Now, he writes the headlines every week, gets me to say them. If I was writing them, this is what I would have said. I would have said, Lewis deflated. Actually, not deflated, devastated. Lewis devastated. There's a number one confirmed at McLaren, and 3 drivers won at Le Mans, not just Robert bloody Kubica.
Oh, bloody Kubica. You can't say everybody loves Robert.
I know they do. But these poor 2 other drivers, we'll come on to Le Mans a bit later, but no, nobody even knows who the other 2...
We'll come on to the fact that he did 10 hours of
43%.
24.
Yeah,
43%. And his last stint was 59 laps in 3.5 hours.
Look, amazing. So, I'm making a point. There's no I in team.
Hold on, what's this number one at McLaren that hasn't been announced? What are you saying now? You just what?
Well, of course, after what happened in the Grand Prix Orlando, I think, isn't it obvious is the new number one's being crowned?
Not unless they say it. They've still got a lot of races to go. He's not even a race in points behind. One, the retirement for Oscar.
I've just been contentious with my headings. I've been a bit of clickbait with my headings. And Lewis, poor Lewis, he's absolutely devastated running over a groundhog. But it is quite sad. If you do run... I love animals. If you do run over a squirrel or a pigeon or something, it is quite sad. Although I've got pigeons in my tree outside and they're making a right old mess. They make the flimsiest of nests.
That groundhog could have killed him.
Yeah.
He said in his last bit, I hope it didn't suffer. I don't think being hit by a 200-mile-an-hour Grand Prix car would involve too much suffering, to be honest, Lewis. I wouldn't lose too much sleep over that. We all love animals, but...
what a way to go. What a way to go by a Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton, 8-time, 7-time world champion.
Ran me over in up in Beaver Heaven. Groundhog Heaven.
If there is reincarnation or anything like that, what a story that dude's going to have. Telling all his little groundhog mates up in Heavenland. Right. Wherever it is, heaven or whatever you believe in. The Formula 1 was pretty good, I got to say, because it was a bit dull.
It's always dull.
Everyone thought Canada was going to be good. You said Canada was an amazing racing track and it was going to be really good.
The only reason why I said it was tiresome, because in the middle it was all about tyres. And this is always the problem. Well, it's a fantastic track, and it does create overtaking. When people have different strategies, and you've got Carlos Sainz running second on the road because he hasn't pitted yet, weird stuff going on, you don't really know what's going to happen until they've all made their final tyre stop. And on this occasion, after they'd all made their final tyre stop, it just took off. It's one of the most exciting last 15, 20 laps of a Grand Prix that we've seen for a long time.
And it was close, wasn't it? It was tight the whole way through.
The top 5 are all, once they'd all had their last pit stops, that's always the trouble. You can't really enjoy it when everyone's spread out and he's trying to get 26 tyres. But Croft, he's banging on and on about, well, the Deg's out now. He's got Deg and he's had these tyres for 14 laps and someone else said it for 16 laps. I don't want to know all that, But and then it just took off. We had all 5 really the lead. I think George was probably coasting it a bit out front, but he was nevertheless for a while dropped back, and Max was there, and then Kimi was having the drive of his life. Finally, after I think Kimi had sort of lost a bit of his gleam, his golden touch at the last few races, he's really back and impressing.
Well, I think everyone was pleased for him getting his first podium. That's quite something, isn't it? Let's just
Lando.
I know.
Faster than Oscar in FP1, FP2, FP3, Q1, Q2, and then he just makes mistakes in both his Q3 runs, ends up half a second behind Oscar, 7th on the grid. it's just becoming it's a sad tale, really, because you've got so many fans. We all love him in Britain. Okay, with Oscar's, very much the up and coming star of McLaren, but we just despair when he makes his mistakes. And now the pressure and he'd done that brilliant move. He surprised Oscar,
surprised everybody. It was just so easy.
Brilliant.
It looked like it was slow motion.
And although he didn't get the place because he didn't have the inside for which side was he on? He was on the outside coming down, whichever it was. He
narrowed his exit, so he didn't. Yeah.
But then the whole thing was he now pulled Oscar away from Kimi's DRS. So now he's got 4 or 5 laps left to attack him with DRS. Instead, he just goes for the first half chance. I mean, I know what he was.
It wasn't even a half chance, Tiff.
Well, no, it wouldn't be, because I think Oscar was beginning to turn right. Because Oscar wouldn't have stayed out.
Oscar didn't deviate. Oscar did not move before you go there.
No, turn right.
Yeah.
Not into him. Oscar was taking the natural line. So Lando just thought he's going to pull to the right. He almost committed himself in the belief that he was going to pull right, which is what you'd naturally do. If you're a car length ahead, you'd probably move to the middle of the road for the braking zone. So I think Oscar just Lando dreamed that space was going to be opening and aimed his car at it.
Well,
it didn't open.
Is that the first time that they've been they've raced together? I
was going to say,
head-to-head.
If the race had gone to the end, whoever came 4th or 5th, whoever it was been, I was going to say this is what we're waiting for. I think every Grand Prix so far we've ended by saying, but we still haven't had the head-to-head between Oscar and Lando. There's always been someone in between them, or someone's made a mistake, or Max gets between them at the first corner, and then the one that's got ahead of Max disappears, or at Monaco, it's Lando. So finally, we had this fantastic head-to-head, and it was just brilliant. The tension was rising, and he just goes for a half-assed attempt, which was just...
Well, then the radio came on, and I'm expecting him to say, he moved under braking, he did this, he did that, and it was a complete opposite. So big respect, Lando.
Yeah, but then respect Lando,
he put his hand up and said he made a mistake.
I agree, this is wonderful, and we all love it. But that's the psychology of Max Verstappen? Is that the psychology of a winner? He finished qualifying, and in Q3 he said, I made mistakes at the wall, it was my fault, I made mistakes. And the trouble is, this is his whole mentality. Blames himself, and he correctly blames himself. I'm not saying, but shouldn't he be lying? Shouldn't Max be saying the idiot brake tested me, lifted off in front of me? He wouldn't apologise. They made a big fuss, last week when finally Max said, "I didn't do the correct thing at Imola." Didn't quite apologise or anything, but this is the why Lando. Yes, great, he's honest to his core, but. Is this maybe the reason why he won't win the World Championship this year? I don't know. It's such a shame.
It is a shame. He's clearly got it. Let's take a step back, because let's just go back quickly to qualifying. I want to mention to you the Yuki incident. I thought that was really harsh, personally.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This is where these anal FIA people, they write these rules of overtaking, rules of everything, without any common sense at all. If I'm coming up under a red flag situation, the car in front of me is spitting carbon fibre and bits all the road doing 50 miles an hour, I'm going to pull out and go past him at 60. I don't know what the speed differential was. I don't know if he flashed by him at 150 miles an hour, which might have been a bit, that was a red flag. But you don't follow the car that's crawling around, dropping bits all over the place.
You don't follow the car that's caused the red flag. Typically, that's accepted that you're allowed to overtake that car. It's got a problem. If
a car's in the gravel trap parked, you're allowed to overtake. Have you got to stop? I can't overtake you. I know you're in the gravel trap parked.
That's exactly what everybody was laughing about with these A2RL guys, the autonomous racing guys, because in their first race, it's programmed, do not overtake on a red flag.
Yellow flag.
But it was red at the time, and a car broke down on the track.
That's right. Yeah.
So everybody stopped behind it, and so. The common sense has to prevail sometimes. I thought that was a bit harsh for Yuki. Poor old Yuki's just really struggling.
He was only half a second off, I think, in Q2.
Yeah, but the results, Tiff, nobody pictures on the sscorecard. You don't go back in 5 years' time and remember that he was only a couple of tenths off. Yeah.
But nobody wants. I think Agile said, "I don't want to drive." I don't want it. Whereas sort of Anybody else will put their hands up.
Yeah, you're right. And then George went for a clean
George,
sweep. George put
but
in
again,
a phenomenal lap.
like I said about the track, it's a great racing track, and it's a challenging track. And that was the beauty of George's interview after that quali lap, because he had hooked one up, going millimetres from concrete walls to concrete walls, bumpy turn-ins. You've got to take the bump at the maximum without bumping yourself out of line. We saw Oscar make mistakes. We saw Leclerc out. Leclerc went sideways because he thought he had a bit of dirty air 150 yards in front of him, which I think was a bit of a weak play. Lando didn't say that, you see. Leclerc said, it was a bit of dirty air from a car Mars. But the fact that George did that, he knew how close to probably crashing at every corner he was. And it was a brilliant interview with his eyes bulging with the excitement of getting. And that's what tracks like, Sao Paulo's the same, Brazil, the old-fashioned tracks, give the driver so much more reward. If you're on a really fast lap with curbs, you can, I'm 6 inches wide here. It doesn't matter. I'll go over the curb 6 minutes. No. And so you can be committed but not have that penalty, like Monaco qualifying, which is always such an exciting challenge to the drivers.
Well, in the build-up to it, Danica and Nico Rosberg were talking because Jensen and a lot of the guys were at Le Mans. But and Danica said, "Well, it's an easy track," and Rosberg said, "Look, I'm sorry." He said, "I'm sorry. I have to disagree with you. It's not an easy track. It's a very, very tough track." And she got a lot of stick. She thinks she's good, and I think she's competed well, and she adds a bit of glamour, but sometimes it's very naive saying things like that.
Back 20th on IndyCar. I've looked up. Maybe I'll be wrong, but she'd be half a second off the pace in an IndyCar around a street circuit.
Yeah,
she's a very, very good driver. As these, the girls out there are very, very good drivers, but they're not brilliant.
Well, she's more attractive than Karun. But Karun is very good, I have to say. So qualifying great, and I agree with you that these George had to hook that up, and it was absolutely on the edge. Yeah. No room for error. So that was good. He took that, and then it was all the big debate: was Max were they going to come together on turn one? And because he's on 11 points, Max on 11 points on his license. Yeah, exactly.
It all just cruise. Kimi did a good job to get. Who did he get? To get Oscar, didn't he? Kimi did that got him that third place, that first corner move by Kimi Antonelli to get round Oscar. Actually, was coming out of turn 2, was up that run up to turn 3, 4. But yeah, it was a fantastic race in the end. We sort of forgot about the battle for 10th. Fernando had another good weekend, didn't he? With Stroll. Did you see Stroll slouchy on that couch like a spoilt brat, giving monosyllabic answers? Quick, hard word to say that, monosyllabic.
That's right. Nice. I like that word. I couldn't pronounce that if you gave me 20 quid.
Is it exciting here racing on a track named after such a famous Canadian? Whatever. I don't know, why did he break down?
Terrible.
I don't know why. Did he retire?
Terrible. Such a bad.
Oh no.
You children trying to get into it, because the problem is they all replicate it. They see it and they think, oh, well, I'll do that as well. I don't care. I'll just be all chilled and.
Stick him in a sports car, Dad. Just stick him in a sports car.
Especially now that
the latest thing in the telly today on the internet is George going to Aston Martin. There's all this. Mercedes wanting Max, and Aston Martin are putting a big bid in, I think, to get George, whose contract runs out this year. So it's an interesting thing. The lads I play
squash and stuff with, everyone's got an opinion on Formula One, and they said, well, obviously Aston Martin are going to win next year. I said, what are you talking about? Well, they got Adrian Newey now. But if it was that easy, it's not that easy, sadly. And Aston Martin are a long way away, unless they get lucky with this new the new regs next year.
Well, and Honda, might get like Honda engines as well. As Fernando used to have a Formula 2 engine. His Honda was when he was moaning. Yeah, Hulkenberg, another great race by the Hulk. Giving Audi a bit of more hope for next year instead of being at the back. Ocon, another great Haas story in their 200th race. What was it, 200th? There's a lot of fuss about this. They did their new colour scheme, apparently, was reflected their first race. It looks exactly the same to me. The fuss they're making in these PR about their new blooming colour schemes. But good, Rock on 9th, beating Behrman. And Sainz managed to get the final point after that poor old Hadjar blocked him. They were both very good about that. Carlos didn't rant about Hadjar. Hadjar said, "Well, the team had told me that he wasn't on a hot lap." So
I agree.
It was well handled by both.
But again, yeah, that was well. Look at Max and George, both of them. They're like a couple of, well, I can't say that, but they're handbags. When under the safety car, and he brake chest me. That's a penalty. And then the other way around, he just overtook me on the safety car. That's a penalty.
I was about to come to that. That's the next. I mean, Red Bull should be brought in. There's a regulation about bringing the sport into disrespect, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, that process
it's always Red Bull. It's always Red Bull.
Max didn't complain about it. It was totally a Horner Red Bull. Oh, photographs, evidence, throttle trails. I mean, and it took 5 hours to give us a final result of the Grand Prix.
Well, it must be close then. If it took 5 hours, if it took 5 hours, it must have been tight.
It's like we always talk about football with flipping
VAR.
Not VAR, we always say how long that takes. 6 minutes to move their lines. They had to go through all the throttle traces of both cars. Well, that's just pathetic. It just didn't. I mean, it was under a safety car. There wasn't any more racing afterwards. It was all. Everybody knew there wasn't any more racing. It was all over. Oh,
just don't stay that close behind someone on a safety car, because most of you know this, or everyone probably knows this anyway. But you need to warm your brakes as well as your tyres. It's not just your tyres, especially the car.
Red Bull said we didn't need to warm the brakes because the race was over.
Still out. Yeah.
To be honest, I've no doubt George might have been mucking about. He's thinking, I've won this Grand Prix. Sod you, Max. Hey, well, how are you doing? Oh, you've overtaken me, Max.
Silly.
Red Bull
it's nice
just losing everybody's respect. I mean, the Red Bull are losing everybody's respect in this great team.
But again, the lad said, but it's nice having someone like Max, the villain, because people like that, but people can't stand Red Bull now. They've gone from being such a brilliant underdog team, Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel and et cetera, and now they're winning championships all over the place. But no one can stand them. It's just their attitude. Well, I'm sure people can stand them, but the majority, the lads last night as a example.
But anyway, a really good Grand Prix at the end, and lots of controversy for us to talk about and opinions. And the Academy girls, see, again, you go to a real racetrack where there isn't much room for errors, and they were bashing into each other. The safety car came out in every race. But the funny thing is, at the moment, they're going through quite a good phase. There's actually about 8 girls, women that are very similar in pace at the moment. So we actually are getting some very good racing. I'm not saying we're finding the next world champion, but we are getting some entertaining racing. A shame, Alicia Palmowski is becoming the leading British star. She was second on the grid for the 2 main races and didn't make it to turn 3 in either race. So unfortunately, she had a rotten weekend despite showing some speed. But it was Ella Lloyd became the leading Brit. She qualified about 4th. She had three second places. Even the reverse grid race, she came from about 5th to come 2nd. Just some great racing, but they were just banging into each other left, right, and centre.
The big one was the rejoining the circuit after going off on the chicane, and just rejoining as if she was the only person on the.
Slamming somebody to the wall.
As if she was the only person on the track. You just can't do that. You just can't. And again, the second race, I watched the second race, and Ella Lloyd, right to the end, last corner. Is it chicane last corner? Is it? No, it's not, is it? But little. And the driver cut the corner, a bit like we were saying a bit BTCC last week at.
That was the last
Thruxton.
lap. Yeah. She kept the win. And she shouldn't.
I know. I agree.
That was Emma Felbermeyer, the Austrian, who won the reverse gear. She was second for most of the race and got into the lead, and then
you just can't do that, even if it is honest. But we've all done that.
Just swap the place. She had an advantage. She was off the road.
Yeah.
All this giving up the time. I was a second ahead going in, so I've just backed off to be a second ahead. No way. You've gained a big advantage. You haven't crashed.
When somebody could have overtaken you, and they can't because you straight line the corner.
I think a lot of these girls, they are very young, very inexperienced. I think they were going into the back of competitors under the braking, just simply being surprised how soon the car in front braked. And Leah Block, who I think is one of the talented girls, There's a great 16-year-old Finnish girl that really is coming strongly through the field. I've forgotten her name. But anyway, it's very entertaining. It was very entertaining, the girls were. But yes.
Well, no, it was better to see them on that track. They didn't look so out of place. But on Silverstone and stuff, they just look so out of place. They look so small.
Good. So excellent entertainment in Canada. And everyone loves going there. But I've got to go there because everyone raves about the town and it's a great visit. It's a great trip. Good track. Meanwhile, over in France, Le Mans, this wonderful event. And it wasn't the most exciting Le Mans, I don't think, because very soon the Cadillacs that on the front row dropped back and the race pace Ferraris moved forward and it looked like a 1-2-3 domination, to be honest. But they all had little problems. All the Ferraris, the three of them, the two factory cars and the private car with Kubica part of the team, with Yiffy Yee and Phil Hansen. Only 25 years old, Phil Hansen. I didn't realize he's so young. He's been winning LMP2 championships. He might have played for Liverpool as well. But he was actually on one of the Alpine or Red Bull or McLaren lists as a young single-seater driver, but he quickly went to GT racing, won GT championships, won LMP2 championships. But they were all.
It's unusual to get such a young GT driver or supercar driver, sports car.
That's the trouble. But they're getting younger because they're now giving up on the Grand Prix dream earlier. And they're just getting into GTs and LMP2s because sports cars is growing at such a rate. So it looked like a Ferrari 1-2-3. They all had problems, and one Porsche managed to get in between them all and finish second. But it was just the wonderful story, really.
But this balance of power, balance of performance, it is not. But is that working? Because it is for Ferrari. They got to be delighted. But haven't they won the last 4 races and they won the last? Yeah,
they've dominated this year. But they've got their act together, and they're not got the fastest car in one lap because they've got maybe less downforce. And this is the thing, you can get a lap time. The Cadillac's very quick because they're super fast through the fast corners, but of course have more drag on the straights. But the trouble is, balance of power annoys me. You maybe should at least give them 2 aeros to choose from in a track. But you go there now and you can't change anything. That is your car. So, it would be great if they could all put on more wings for qualifying, to make it more exciting. They'd all go to a race setup with less drag and then maybe equalise the race setups with the qualifying. But do you think the Ferrari team have got their priorities in the right order or the wrong order? I mean, they want to win in Formula One as well as WEC. Yeah. There's absolutely no question. But do you think they're putting more priority on winning? No,
WEC?
I don't think so. We didn't talk about Ferrari in the Grand Prix, did we?
Not really. Lewis with the...
Yeah, but it was back to the Leclerc. We are moving plan B. I want plan C. It's classic Ferrari, wasn't it? Every time they tell Leclerc, we're going plan B. No, I want plan C. And then he actually stops.
Are they Pakistani? Are they? Is that the accent you're trying to do? Fred's under a lot of pressure. Actually, he came under a bit of pressure. But then he came back. He bit back and said, "Well, actually, we've changed the team principal. We've changed the drivers. We've changed the engineers. The only people we haven't changed are the senior management team." So, and maybe he was alluding to that. Maybe he is alluding to the fact that they're spending more effort on sports cars.
But Albon was moaning like mad as well, wasn't it? Just, why do you let me know? Let me have a choice. Can I not? And the teams now, they've got 20 people on computers back at their home base. They've got 20 people on computers at the racetrack, about 40 people working out the theoretical quickest way to finish the race. And the driver just gets told, no, plan B. The computer says plan B.
Computer says no. Alonso wasn't very happy either when they said go easy at turns 3 and 8, and he said this is a race. This isn't testing.
Race. Yeah. So anyway, Le Mans, just Robert Kubica. So I saw that they had an onboard I saw towards the end of the race. I haven't watched that much of it because it's a long race. And I saw him just go through and his head was gone, and he was every corner he was on the headrest. And you can see his eyes. This was after 3 hours. How long was that last 3.5 hour stint? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's a quintuple.
What's the longest stint you did?
One, if I could get away with. We only did 2. I never triple stinted, but we used to last for about 55 minutes instead of 45 minutes.
Wait, how many times are there to fill up?
I don't know how long, many times they stopped, lost touch. But it was
So
59, quintuple stint. Well, if he did
Amazing.
59 laps, hold on, we did 59 laps. So it's only about 10 or 12 laps, but it's the same as we did. But we did 10, it was 13 laps in my day. Of course, 13 laps then was almost an hour, whereas 13 laps now is about
Wow.
50 minutes. But of course, our cars were so much heavier. The gear shift on a Porsche 962, synchronization box, and you're pumping up, down all the pedals and dancing up and down. The steering's heavy, you've got no power steering. So we were well knackered. But now it's
no air conditioning.
No air conditioning. It's all the mental thing now of Le Mans, because all the overtaking they do, you must lift off losing a tenth. I mean, Paul Aresta had a crash early on, trying to go on the outside of a GT3 into the Porsche curbs, because you mustn't lose half a second. It's all about getting through the traffic.
Why was that different when back in your day?
Well, because it seemed to be quite easy. We didn't because getting every lap half a second, quicker than the next man wasn't so important. It was almost, there's a bit more endurance, and you could be safe, risk the car and make up for it. But the cars were so heavy and hefty to drive. We had ground effect, of course, but that made the steering even heavier.
What would the GT cars have been back in your days? What type of things would you have had?
Well, it was LMP2 as it was, so the C2.
So just LMP2 and
yeah, 1 and 2.
Okay.
I mean, my early races, there were GT cars going very slowly, the massive speed differentials. But the trouble is, the GT cars around the corners, they're pretty quick, they don't hold you up too much. So, great wins. So for China, Britain and Poland, and Robert winning with that, being the fittest of the three.
And I was just being a bit contagious at the beginning, because he's quality. And who knows what would have happened if he didn't have that crash. Horrible crash, his Formula One career.
We had two Brits on the podium, because James Collado was in the lead factory Ferrari, that finished third. LMP2, British winner, Nick Yellerly was there was a fantastic battle in LMP2, or drama. Wasn't that close to a battle, because Nick Yellerly was leading LMP2, but got a speeding fine the last time out. After 23 and a half hours, he got nicked for speed, had to do a drive-through, lost the lead of LMP2 with half an hour to go. And then the car that took the lead, which had another British driver as part of the team, Oliver Gray, about 15 minutes from the end, had a suspension collapsing problem, and Yellerly managed to storm back and overtake him with about 15 minutes left. So a lot of drama there. Jamie Chadwick sadly was out about just over half distance.
They were doing well though, and she did really well. I have to say,
they lost a wheel apparently. Was that out of the pits? I don't know. Was it a loose wheel from a pit stop?
It was. But it wasn't her driving, was it? Who were her name? Her teammates? Do you know them?
No.
Being on the spot here, but a very well known driver, and I'm so embarrassed that I don't know either. But then the pit guy didn't put the wheel on properly. Lost the wheel. Obviously, he was distraught. He's just ruined their race and the team's race. And the driver, I should know who it is. I'll look in a moment whilst you're talking about something else. He went into the pits, got this guy, said, "Look, don't worry about it. These things happen." So I thought that was.
Did he drive it
quite
back?
classy.
Was it undrivable? It was a rear wheel, probably not front.
I think it was undrivable, because how the diff is locked, or so it's undrivable. So another couple of Brits just to mention, didn't really have the Le Mans we wanted. James Cottingham, JK Engineering, and Ryan Cullen as well. They didn't.
He's Irish. He's our mate. He's a Lovecars presenter, but he's Irish. Don't upset the Irish now. And GT, the only podium we didn't have any Brits on was the GT podium. It was great fun. The four GTs on the lead lap. Porsche first, Ferrari second, Corvette third, and Aston Martin fourth, which Ian James in the Aston Martin was our highest finishing GT driver. So it's just great race, so much going on, wonderful atmosphere, great weather, great beer probably for the campsite, fun in the fun fair. Racing
Andre Lotterer, of course.
Oh, was it Andre
Lotterer?
Yeah. Oh, Lotterer.
Yeah, and Jamie, I saw her social media, and she absolutely loved Le Mans. I wonder whether she's just found her calling now. She's done some serious stuff.
Well, she's going for this, LMP1, this hypercar class, hopefully, because that car's all sponsored by, isn't it?
Of course, of course.
Which are doing a hypercar next year, not Proton. Is it Proton? Anyway, she's hoping to get into that. So wonderful
Cool.
entertainment. Canadian Grand Prix. Next year, Canada doesn't clash with Le Mans, I don't think. So maybe we'll get more in. Canada clashes with what's happening, and maybe it does. Now, what's changed is Monaco. They've moved Canada.
There's a couple of clashes.
Yes, they've moved something. It means we can go to the Indy 500 and not Monaco. That's the one that doesn't clash. They've moved the date, so now the Indy 500 doesn't clash. So a driver wants to do the Triple Crown, which Graham Hill has, can now go to get an IndyCar drive for the weekend.
The only driver to have done it, isn't he? The only driver ever.
Yeah.
Alonso's the only living driver to have got two. Or sorry, not living, the only active driver to have two, but he's never going to win an IndyCar race, but Indy 500, maybe you win. I don't know. Is he?
So IndyCar over at the night race around wherever they were. I forget where they were now. Motor Park. Amazing drama around there. Great, exciting. 1.25 mile overtaking all the time. Two side by sides overtaking. Very tricky. Lots of different leaders. But then there was this huge shunt, which was sadly caused by Louis Foster, the leading the rookie championship. This British driver did a tremendous job with which team? DLL. But he just goes wide into the grey. It's the worst thing to see on television with a racing driver. So he was trying to go around the outside of someone. And if you just get another 2 feet greedy halfway through the race, or early on in the race, when the dirt's up on the banking, it hasn't been cleaned for a while. And when you're in the grey, it looks pathetic because you just drive up into the wall. You just can't stop it. But he bounced off the wall, did the rear toe link. So it wasn't a huge crash. But then he suddenly spun him across the track. And Joseph Newgarden, who was coming through, leading the field right at the front to lap him at that stage, just took the wrong choice and went low. But there was the pit wall on his left, and Foster's car just dropped down in front of him. And you've seen it all on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen it.
It's
just vaulted
hell of a
over
crash,
yeah. Sparks flying down the road, their aero screen proving as good as the halo of the Formula One cars holding. But the trouble is the aero screen, he almost landed flat upside down. The rollover hoops kept him up a bit. But with the aero screen, where's a halo you can get out between the top of the halo and the top of the monocoque? You can't get out of an aero screen. I mean, you are completely trapped should anything like a fire start. But anyway, he was completely uninjured, as was Louis, but both had very, very damaged cars. Several more crashed out the race, banged walls. And Kyle Kirkwood, this guy that's only ever won street races, 2 Long Beaches, and then he won in Detroit the other week, finally won on an oval. I kept on saying a driver that had a lot of people raving about him when he was in the lower formula, and he was going to be the new superstar of the future. Suddenly seems to have found his pace elsewhere, the Andretti team. Helped by the fact all 3 Penske cars went out, not just Newgarden, but Power. They had a lot of troubles. So Kirkwood came home first from Pato Award. And in third place was not a rookie, but an outsider, Christian Rasmussen, this Danish guy. So I didn't watch that because it was at 1 o'clock in the morning, but I caught up with it all this morning. Dramatic IndyCar, great Le Mans, amazing Mexico, then the NASCAR Mexico, amazing Canada. And the NASCAR boys also went off to the Mexican Grand Prix track. And we were having 40 cars coming down that huge long straight at the circuit, 3 or 4 wide into that first turn, right, left, right chicane, which they, on most restarts, didn't all get around. Looked spectacular. There was the Xfinity race, the Formula 2 NASCAR race, was won the day before by the Mexican Daniel Suarez, who does regular NASCAR racing in America. But he went down to Formula 2 and won it. The delight to the Mexicans. But the Cup race, the main race on the Sunday, was very wet as anything at the start. Some of them all started on slicks, and they were just going off left, right, and centre. Unfortunately, Kyle Busch took out Kyle Larson, the number 5. He just locked up the rears, braking. They pretty much do 180, I would have thought, down that long straight. I'm not sure how quick enough. Probably gets that 180. Anyway, locked up the rears and just skittled.
You think they go that fast down there?
I would have thought so. It's a hell of a long straight. They got
it's one of those things that every championship says, like Formula E says, our cars do 200 miles an hour.
Oh,
Well,
no.
they don't. There's not a single circuit. They would if they had the straight line speed, massive long runway. But
It's a long, and because I raced there in the Group C Porsche, we must have at least 170, I think. Anyway, skittled about 4 cars that killed
yeah, but
Kyle
surely a Group
Larson's
C
car.
Porsche is going to be faster than a NASCAR in a straight line.
Well, they haven't
Even
got much.
a
Yeah, but
30-year-old car.
they haven't got much aero, have they? They haven't got that much drag. And a big fat
True.
car, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out. We'll Google. We'll come back to you later. Anyway, the story of the day was then Shane van Gisbergen, this Kiwi that won his very first NASCAR race. We had a one-off drive in Detroit last year. He's the supercar champion from Australia. He's Kiwi, mind you. So he's got a full-time ride, but he's been struggling on the ovals. We talked about this last week. I think I mentioned he had a 12th or an 18th place finish in the oval last weekend. But he's upset people on Twitter. I've been tweeting with Lee Diffie because he's 33rd.
Sorry,
in the
who's
points.
Lee Diffie? Sorry.
He's the commentator, a great commentator. He did British
Okay.
Rally. I worked with him when we did the BBC World Rally Championship rounds. So I met him back then. He's been in America now for 20 years, 30 years, and became the lead NASCAR and IndyCar commentator, a really great presenter. He's sort of like, the top man.
Yeah.
Because they're all moaning because, of course, by winning in Mexico, Van Gisbergen, brilliant driver. In the end, he just pulled away by about 9, 10, 15 seconds. Dominant win. And he now gets one of the 16 playoff places. Now, he's actually, before the race, 33rd in the points. So the top 16, either having one race.
I think that's really good. I like it. I like this.
Well,
I like it.
Someone is raving about it. A NASCAR fan, ridiculous. The 33rd best driver gets into the playoffs. But I pointed out my answer was, but he's only knocking out the 16th best playoff person. So it's not as if he's knocking out, if you're a top
Everybody
driver,
loves an underdog story. Why do you think Rocky was so good? Leicester City winning the Premiership
it's
all
a
those years
wonderful
ago.
story.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Excluded the 16th best, but if you're a top driver trying to win the championship, if you can't get to the top 16, well, you shouldn't be moaning about it.
And
it was spectacular.
Tiff on the speed, crikey, I was miles out. So they reckon a NASCAR's typical speed 190 to 200 miles an hour on most tracks, but on the super speedways like Daytona and Talladega, they can reach over 200, and the fastest ever speed was 202.8 miles an hour at Talladega in 1987. That was pre.
But that's an oval. You haven't got any street circuits.
I know. But I'm just giving you the overview.
No. Well, I knew they did over 200 miles an hour. I've driven I got up to 187 around Charlotte in one I did one of those again Top Gear story, running around Charlotte 170 miles an hour, scaring the death out of me. Didn't know what I was doing. You lift off and it turns left. What has gone on? Whoa. Turn right all the way down the straight because it's designed to turn left. So great entertainment in Mexico. Mexicans all loved that. And then really back to Europe with Superbikes, which was the dullest race of the weekend, and sadly, mainly because, again, it was a Toprak, Razgatlioglu and Nicola Bulega show. But for the rest of the Superbike field, they should be delighted with the news that Toprak is now signed to leave Superbikes, do MotoGP with Yamaha next year. So he's finally, everybody's saying we must get Toprak into MotoGP. So he is next year. And also
that's a big blow for World Superbike.
Yeah, but maybe the bigger bit of work. And Bulliger's also signed for Ducati for 2027. And he's going to do some testing next year. So Bulliger, so the two, they were about 15 seconds ahead of anyone else in the first race. Toprak won all three, but mainly helped the second race. Bulliger was taken out of the first corner by an Italian Axel Bassanini, who dropped the front and just took Bulliger with him. So Bulliger didn't finish the second race. And Alex Lowe's actually got second in the second race, who happened to be Bassini's teammate on a Kawasaki. So Bassani taking out him, helped him win one. But it's just dull racing. Great racing in the midfield, but the fact that two leaders are 20 seconds up the road doesn't make you feel that excited. Sorry, bikes. You had a poor weekend. When the four-wheel boys were brilliant all over the world, you went to the bottom of the list of excitement.
I got some excitement. Breaking news. Abby Pulling has signed a multi-year agreement to become Nissan Formula E rookie and simulator driver.
Race driver? Race
No.
driver? Are they rushing her into the race seat?
I have got some other.
It's
Yeah,
great for her.
it's good
They're
for
earning
her.
money.
It is good. I got some other news as well. If you're interested in Formula One, Cadillac are
Just,
advertising. Go on.
but what do you think about the 13 young men that are leading her in the GB3 championship when that
Well,
happens?
I feel sorry for. I feel sorry
I mean,
for. Well, I love Jamie Chadwick. I think she's
yeah,
amazing, but she wouldn't have had these opportunities if she was a man.
no,
And
no,
you got to be honest and brutal about it. But she's phenomenal, and she's living her best life. Good for her.
yeah,
I think, and she's clearly an unbelievable driver. But there are guys that won't
well,
have her
quicker,
opportunity the quicker.
yeah.
And I use Jamie as an example, which is possibly unfair so many times because, as far as I'm concerned, she's about as good as it gets in terms of a lady driver. Do
Not
you?
as good as
Would
Desiree Wilson was, who I raced against
no
in Formula
was
One
see you're
cars.
saying was now she must be the best female driver on the planet.
Yes, she's definitely, in my opinion, yeah, she's the fastest female.
Yeah. So that's why I use her not to point her out in a negative way, in a positive way. Um, so if you want a job, Cadillac are advertising 60 jobs, 60 for their Formula One team next year. So that's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's that over your right shoulder? I've never noticed that before. Next to your door, the brown thing. Yeah,
Oh, that one over there. Oh, that's my
yeah.
dad's tickets from Brooklands and Goodwood.
That's amazing.
I shall
Put a
bring it
picture on
over.
Twitter.
I shall bring it over to show you. After
Well,
I've
no,
told
because
you what's on next week, then I'll show you. Next week, fantastic weekend of racing. Again, another brilliant race. We've got IndyCars at Road America, the best road circuit in the world. Watch the racing around there. Not much overtaking, but absolutely brilliant for the best drivers. IMSA at the wonderful Watkins Glen with their hypercars. The MotoGP's at one of the best tracks in the world, Mugello. Absolutely the fabulous motorbike track. NASCAR are going around the tricky triangle of Pocono. So all that's international. And then we've got the British GTs are popping over to Spa, if you happen to be living in Belgium at the moment, to watch them. British Superbikes are up at Snetterton for a fantastic, entertaining racing day. And of course, the BTCC boys are at Alton Park. So another weekend packed with brilliant motorsport from around the world.
Whilst you're getting that, you missed one as well. You missed Formula E Jakarta. Just put a
Oh,
picture on
no.
Twitter. I'd love to see that. That looks really good. Is that you've only just put that on your wall, have you?
Oh, yeah. Jakarta. I have got it.
Have you?
It is there in green. I put them in green, but you can't read green that easy. Jakarta, can you?
Your organisation is second to none. Tiff, is that new that you've put those medals or
No,
the?
my head must have
How?
covered them all
No,
this
but I've been
time.
to your office many times. How have I not seen that? Noticed that before? I've always nosied around and looked at your little memorabilia and stuff. The Radio Times
It's
front
not.
page
Which bit are
and
you looking at now? That's a calendar. That's a
no
calendar there
above the light switch. Above the light switch,
over
yeah,
there
look
in the
like
corner.
medals. It looks
Yeah,
like
they are
medals
medals. Oh, ow, oh, ow.
because his study is just amazing. It's got so many amazing things in there. Well, you can see if you're watching.
They're all
He's got to put his headphones
Dad's
in.
medals for Brooklands and
Tiff,
Goodwood.
that's brilliant.
All the brooches.
What's the earliest year?
It starts 30. That's 37.
No wonder you got into motorsport. That's brilliant. Any of the boys showing interest
And
in
there's all
that?
the
They
BARC
like
tickets
that?
from Goodwood when I was sitting on his lap in the
Wow.
grandstands.
Wow. That's a
So
Tiff. Take a picture and put it on Twitter on X. That's brilliant. And BARC would love that as well.
yeah, Brooklands. Well, the first one is the Jaguar. No, the Brooklands Driving Club, the first one.
Absolutely
Yeah, that's the
brilliant.
Needell history.
I'm more concerned and I'm a bit worried these days because there's an unopened bottle of wine over your right shoulder as well. What's going on there? On that note, I'll leave you
I
to
think
crack
it's
it
an
open.
empty one that I want to get more of on the internet. So anyway, I hope
makes
you enjoyed
sense.
our wandering through. Please tell your friends. Please say below what you think.
And yeah, tell us some comments as well. If
Yeah.
if we get something wrong or we've asked a question, then please give us your opinion. We love to
You get
love to
lots
get
of
your
opinions on
opinions.
Twitter. Put some of those Twitter comments because then I can reply to you and tell you you're wrong.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. See you next week.
All of it. Cheers.
Bye.